Good evening. This is the Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals. It is 7 o'clock. Tonight is Wednesday, December 5th. We have 3 hearings before us this evening, and we also have some new zoning board members. And just going around, we have Drew Delaney, a newly appointed alternate member. We have Rick Merrican, a zoning board member. And with us, we have longtime member Mary Jane Coffey. We have got Bob with us, Bob Fitzgerald, and Amy, our administrative secretary. We also have John Charbonneau with us. He is the Economic Development. What's your full title, John?
Community Planning Director.
Community Planning Director. So that's great.
Thank you.
Okay. So what we'd like to do is the applicant for 19 Cherokee here?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you come forward, explain what you're proposing? Does everybody have the in their folder? This is, and let me read a couple pieces of correspondence for this. The legal notice, which was posted in the Walpole Times. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Walpole will hold a public hearing in the main meeting room of the Town Hall Wednesday, December 5th at 7 p.m. for an application of Michelle Karate, case number 23-18, with respect to a property located at 19 Cherokee Lane, Walpole, zoning district RB. Application is for a special permit under 52B of the zoning bylaw to allow an accessory in-law suite to be constructed on the lot, as shown in the plans entitled Karate Residence, dated October 10th, 2018. Prepared by Mariello, as amended. And any other such relief the board deems necessary. The application may be viewed in the office of the Board of Appeals. That was in the paper. We also have a couple pieces of correspondence from the departments. From the Planning Board. The Planning Board is in receipt of your request for comments to the above referenced filing. Please be advised that there are no planning comments at this time. We have a rather lengthy one from Margaret Walker for 19 Cherokee Lane. It says, the ZBA should verify the applicant's architect has calculated the percentages correctly, as it appears the bylaw specifies a maximum suite size as 33% of the original home, where he has used 27 in the stated plan. So we'll take a look at that. Also, exterior landings shall be labeled on the site plan and shall meet the location requirements as noted in the section of the bylaw. And the applicant should discuss adequacy of parking for the combined home and in-law suite, as driveway is not shown in the plan. Okay. John Charbonneau, the Community Planning Director, who's with us this evening, also provided a letter talking about the 33 and 27%, and that the applicant should provide information to the board to meet the requirements of ownership requirements for the accessory in-law suite. So, John, we'll let you address those this evening. We have a letter from Paul Barry, Deputy Fire Chief. The fire department has reviewed the plans and application for the above-mentioned location. At this time, we have no comments to offer regarding the proposed in-law addition. We also have a letter from Conservation Commission. There are no comments for the reference project at this time. Okay. So I do have a question on notice. Was the town of Sharon notified on this? The abutters in Sharon notified on this?
I don't know, that was part of we did pull a certified abutters list and provided it with the application.
Okay. It's on the back of your property is in Sharon, right?
Back up to Sharon? Not that I know of. It backs up into the Lexus dealership, which is on Route 1, which is
Sharon.
Well, I mean, if it was on the, we did, like I said, we did pull a certified abutters list and provided it with the application, so.
Okay.
As you know, the town sends out the notices.
Right. But as you know, everybody within 300 feet has to be notified.
So if they were within 300 feet, it would have been on the abutters list?
Well, let's take a look at the abutters list. Is that in the packet here?
It wouldn't have been on the Walpole list because they only do Walpole.
Okay, so Town of Sharon was notified and Herb Chambers was notified. It's right on here. Okay. We ran into this before. We just want to make sure that everybody that has legal right to notice is notified, so. Okay. Good job. Okay, why don't you go ahead and explain what's being proposed?
Thank you. My name is Joanna Giorgio Hilvert from Mackey and Mackey in Norwood. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm here with the applicant, Michelle Parati, her architect, Ray Maiello, and Michelle's father, Ed Parati. I do have a few handouts for the board. So I have some memorandums which go through, I will give you my presentation, but you can follow along in the memorandum, which goes through the requirements of the bylaw. I have a response letter to the 2 comment letters from Margaret Walker and John Charbonneau, which I will address throughout my presentation, but I'll give you my response letters as well. And then finally, based on the comments that we received, we did do a revision to 2 of the plan pages, so I have new pages for you as well.
Do we have that updated plan?
I have them here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And email you one for the file. And that's your copy of the file. This is the comment response letter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And here you go, John, I have a little. Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, so the locus in question is 19 Cherokee Lane, which falls entirely within the Residence B district. It's currently occupied by a single-family home, approximately 3,600 square feet, an attached garage and accessory driveway, as shown on the plan. And also, if you flip to Exhibit A in your memorandum, there is a picture of the home, if you're interested. Exhibit A is at the end. The present and proposed use. The present use of the house is as a residence for Michelle Parati as well as her 2 children, ages 6 and 2. Mrs. Parati's mother and father are downsizing from their long-standing family home of 47 years in Rhode Island and intend to live in the proposed in-law suite. The proposed in-law suite does not require site plan approval or any other approvals. With respect to the dimensions, if you look at page 2 of the memorandum, I have gone through the relevant zoning dimensions. Both the existing house and the proposed addition do comply with all required dimensions. So the proposed construction is a single-story addition to the existing dwelling consisting of 975 square feet. It's a 1-bedroom in-law suite and accessory deck as shown on the plans. And the best plan to look at is S1. The requested action is a special permit under section 5B2 of the bylaw for an accessory in-law suite. So I will briefly run through the criteria in the bylaw, and please let me know if you have any questions. First, we have the specific accessory in-law suite criteria. Numbers 1 through 3 of those criteria deal with ownership. That's on page 3. And this goes to point number 3 in Mr. Charbonneau's comment letter. The first requirement is that no accessory in-law suite shall be held in separate ownership from the principal dwelling unit. There's no conveyance of ownership associated with this project. Ms. Parati will continue to own the premises, including the in-law suite. Number 2, the accessory in-law suite must be located within a single-family dwelling, and the owner of the dwelling must occupy the principal dwelling unit. This corresponds with Mr. Charbonneau's comment number 2. So the plans show the in-law suite located within the existing house. I think if we look at Plan A2, you can see the setup of the in-law suite. So on October 10th, I met with the then building commissioner, Mr. David Norton, to review the proposed plans, which were not final at this point. The proposed in-law suite attaches to the garage, and our primary question was whether or not we could have an entrance through the garage. Mr. Norton's response was that so long as it was a so-called conditioned space, in other words, insulated drywall part of the home, that was okay. And so we did revise the plans to include a conditioned space. And then I again reviewed the final plans with Mr. Norton prior to submitting them, and he approved of the final plans.
Just that's a quick question for you.
Sure.
You indicate that within the existing home. I just want to make sure I understand the plan. It looks like this is an addition to the existing home.
Well, it is an addition. The way that the bylaw is drafted, it's an addition. The addition becomes part of the home so long as it's attached to the home. And then the fact that we're adding a kitchen to it creates the in-law suite.
Okay.
If we didn't have a kitchen, it would simply be an addition. But it creates a connection with the dwelling unit that allows an actual addition. But that's why it has to be, it can't be a separate entrance with no connection. It has to have a conditioned connection to the main residence, which is what was described to me by Mr. Norton. So you can see here, this is the main house here. This is the garage. These are the 2 garage bays. The conditioned space is here, which leads into the in-law suite, which also has an entrance here, which is on the side of the garage. And then the third ownership requirement is that the accessory in-law suite shall be occupied by individuals within the 3rd degree of kinship of the owner of the principal dwelling unit. Ms. Parati is the owner, and her parents will be living in the in-law suite. Number 4, the existing single-family home must have been constructed with a valid building permit. This residence was constructed with a valid building permit. Number 5, the property owner of an accessory in-law suite must record a certified copy of the decision with the Registry of Deeds and provide a copy to the Department of Inspectional Services, who will keep a master list, and the applicant will stipulate to doing so as a condition of approval. And number 6, when the ownership of the property changes, the new owner must notify the commissioner so as to update the accessory in-law suite list. And the applicant will stipulate to this requirement as a condition of approval. The specific dimensional requirements in the bylaw, this is section 5BC. Number 1, the minimum lot size shall be 15,000 square feet. The lot size in this case is approximately 34,000 square feet. Number 2, the accessory in-law suite shall be a minimum of 250 square feet and no larger than 1,000 square feet or 33% of the total building size in the dwelling, whichever is less. So in this case, the accessory in-law suite is 975 square feet. The existing dwelling is approximately 3,600 square feet. which creates a 27%. So one of the reasons we revised the plan, the original plan that we had submitted, the S1 plan showed 1143, which is square feet, which is what you saw in the comments from both Mr. Charbonneau and Ms. Walker. That was the accessory in-law suite, including the deck, and the reason that was done was for purposes of showing impervious coverage and open space, which you would include the deck for that. You do not include the deck for the square footage of the in-law suite. So we revised the plan to clarify that. And that goes to Maggie Walker's comment number 1 and John Charbonneau's comment number 1 as well. Number 3, any interior space, if used to calculate minimum building size, must meet requirements set forth in the state building code. So the existing dwelling has received a certificate of occupancy, and the applicant will apply for a certificate of occupancy in accordance with the building code when the accessory in-law suite is complete. Number 2, there shall be no more than 2 exterior landings which may be covered and shall not exceed 50 square feet in area and are not within the required setbacks. Stairs shall not be located within a required setback. And this was Margaret Walker's comment number 2. So as shown on this same A2 plan, there is only one exterior entrance and exit to the accessory in-law suite, which is not within any setback. And that is shown right here. So again, orienting you, you're looking at the front of the house here. These are the 2 garage bays, and this is the exterior landing. And actually, there is a, if you flip to, there is an architectural rendering in your plan set, so you can see what it will look like from the front. And I think that, you know which plan that is?
Sheet number?
Yeah. If you flip towards the back of your plan sheet, you'll see a rendering which shows Number 5, any proposed addition as part of this section must keep the outside appearance of a single-family house. So the in-law suite will be constructed in conformity with the main house using all of the same building materials, including siding, windows, and roofing materials. In fact, Ms. Parati is putting a new roof on the entire building, so it will have a consistent roofing pattern throughout. When viewed from either side, the house and the proposed addition will look like a typical colonial with an addition and second entrance. This situation is typical throughout Walpole, and when construction is complete, the house and in-law suite will not be distinguishable from most other single-family homes, including others in the applicant's immediate neighborhood. So there are several other houses in the immediate neighborhood that have a sort of, the main colonial garage and addition. Maybe it was constructed as part of the original house, but in other words, that sort of expanded footprint, and some with second entrances as well. Number 6, all dimensional requirements shall comply with the applicable sections of this bylaw. We reviewed that in the zoning table on page 2. Number 7, no more than 1 accessory in-law suite shall be allowed per lot. The applicant stipulates to this requirement as a condition of approval. Number 8, no more than 1 water meter shall be allowed for the dwelling. The applicant stipulates to this requirement as a condition of approval. Number 9, the same thing. There shall be no lodgers in either the dwelling unit or the accessory in-law suite. Applicant stipulates to this requirement. And number 10, with respect to parking, and this goes to Margaret Walker's comment number 3, the applicant stipulates that parking shall comply with the requirements of the zoning bylaw with regard to the number of vehicles. So the bylaw actually does not contain a separate parking requirement for accessory in-law suites. I don't know if that was an oversight or if it was just because the in-law suite is intended to be part of the existing structure that there wouldn't be another parking requirement. In either case, there are 4 parking spaces. So whether you look at it in this district, there's for a residence, there's 2 parking spaces per residential dwelling. So whether you look at it as requiring 2 or 4, there are 4. And on the boundary survey, you can see here's the garage, here's the driveway. There are 2 parking and several parking spaces in the driveway. So moving on to the general special permit criteria that apply to all special permits in Walpole, and this is section 2.2 of the bylaw. The first is that the project does and shall comply with such criteria or standards as set forth in the section of this bylaw, which refers to the granting of the requested special permit, and that would be section 5B2 for accessory in-law suites, which we just discussed. B, shall not have vehicular and pedestrian traffic of a type and quantity so as to adversely affect the immediate neighborhood. The applicant does not propose any changes to the existing parking or driveway. The addition of an in-law suite will neither impact the convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian traffic within the site, nor affect the current conditions on adjacent streets. The volume of traffic will not change as a result of this renovation and will not have a significant impact on Cherokee Lane. C, the project shall not have a number of residents, employees, customers, or visitors so as to adversely affect the immediate neighborhood. The addition of 2 adults to the applicant's home for a total of 5 family members living under one roof is in alignment with homes in the immediate area, which are all pretty much 4-bedroom homes. The single-family home being residential in nature will have no employees or customers, and so it's not expected to have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. D, it shall comply with residential requirements applicable to the zoning district, and we've discussed that it does. E, shall not be dangerous to the immediate neighborhood of the premises through fire, explosion, emissions of waste, or other causes. As it's residential in nature, we don't anticipate any danger to the immediate neighborhood through fire, explosion, emissions of waste, or other causes. F, shall not create noise, vibration, dust, heat, smoke, fumes, odor, glare, or other nuisance or serious hazard so as to adversely affect the immediate neighborhood. Again, it's residential in nature and therefore would not create any such hazards. G, shall not adversely affect the character of the immediate neighborhood. The immediate neighborhood is residential in nature, and the proposed undertaking is consistent with the area and the immediate neighborhood. The architectural plans show the house is being renovated in a tasteful manner that is consistent with the size and construction of other houses in the neighborhood. And finally, H, the project shall not be incompatible with the purpose of the zoning bylaw or the purpose of the zoning district in which the premises is located. The zoning bylaw states in part that the purpose is to encourage housing for persons of all income levels, to encourage the most appropriate use of land. I would submit that the proposed in-law suite meets both of these requirements. Therefore, the applicant would respectfully request that the Zoning Board of Appeals grant a special permit under Section 5B2 to allow an accessory in-law suite in a single-family home located at 19 Cherokee Lane in Walpole, and any other such relief as the board deems appropriate or necessary.
Very good, thank you. Okay, let's open up to any of the board members. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this?
Nope.
Well, I have some. Go ahead, Bob.
No, go ahead.
So, one of the things we need to look at to say this is an in-law apartment or in-law suite and not a separate apartment. So can you walk us through, you touched on it already, but let's walk through the openings and how it connects into the existing house.
Again, this is the garage. So the front of the house is here. This is the garage. There is an entrance through the existing house, through the garage into the in-law suite.
Okay. Is that a door? It says flush. Is that a door?
That
Right
is a
there.
door.
So, okay, so there's one door, and then going a little further, there's a shaded area. Is that an open from the hallway? Is that looks like a, the exterior wall to the garage? Is that an opening or is that a door?
You're talking about this right here?
Yes.
Ray, that's an opening there?
See?
Yeah. So he's asking about this shaded area right here.
Oh, that's shaded because that's the existing exterior wall, which is gonna be removed
Okay.
to make the connection. So that's gonna be an opening and a hallway.
Okay. And there's two egresses, well, actually, three egresses if you count going through the garage.
Yes. And again, we looked at additional homes in the neighborhood, and so, adding a second entrance is consistent with other homes in the neighborhood. The primary concern when I discussed this with Mr. Norton is that it does have to connect through the house.
Right.
And so he was fine with this, he was fine, there's an entrance into the garage, he was fine with that, but he requested that this be a conditioned space, and he was fine with it having a door.
He was fine with it having a
He
door?
was fine with it having a door, yes.
Okay. Because the intent of an in-law suite is that it is part of the house, and it is not closed off, it is not easily closed off. So we can, that's something that you probably need to think about and see what other board members have to, if they have any other questions. So that door right there does separate it from the rest of the house.
True, but in every house, there's doors that separate rooms, so
I'm
I
not
know.
usually in a hallway to the other part of the living area.
I mean, it depends on what type of house it is, right? So I know the trend now is everything is open, and, but, I live in an old colonial, I have doors to all my rooms. So, it just sort of depends on the style of the house, but I don't think having a door makes it a separate living space, and again, I did discuss this with Mr. Norton, and he agreed. I mean, we could stipulate that there's no lock on the door, if that would, make the board feel more comfortable.
The zoning enforcement doesn't want to become a lock police and find out if doors have locks or not. It would be in the design. But we can, so that's, everything else looks good, but we'll see what other people say, and if there's any neighbors here to comment, we'll go to that. Bob, did you have a question or comment?
Nope, what you just raised was sort of my only comment about it.
And how concerned are you about it?
Well, I guess it goes with the question about, is it being built within the existing house? I think it's along the lines of what you're saying, is that, this is an addition, but is because of the fact that they're putting in a kitchen and everything else, it would then qualify as an in-law suite. I just don't know if the intent of the bylaw was to convert existing space into an in-law suite as opposed to expanding your house and then adding that on. But I think the issue that you're talking about in terms of the access from the main house is what is really intended to address that kind of tension between those two things. So I'd be interested in hearing what others have to say about that.
Just so board members, and I'm concerned about that because really you're not creating an in-law suite down the hallway, you're creating a separate unit, so. I don't know.
And the way the bylaw is drafted, I mean, this complies dimensionally with the zoning bylaw. So in reality, if there was not a kitchen, I mean, we could do this in two steps. We could put on an addition with no kitchen, and I know that I was here a few weeks ago, right, where that was what was happening, and wouldn't need the special permit, and then we could come back to add a kitchen and request a special permit, and at which point it would be one dwelling unit. So I think
a separate kitchen would make it into either a in-law suite or a multi.
Right, but you would be adding it within the existing dwelling unit, because we would have one dwelling unit with an addition, and then we'd be adding it. And in looking at the bylaw and in seeing other projects in town that have, I mean, I think the intent is to allow an in-law suite, not just within the actual building. I mean, would it make sense to require people to come back in two steps to get it done?
Right, and I think the zoning board, would look at that as a different application and not an in-law suite.
Right, well, it wouldn't be an application, we can do it as of right. So we could do an addition as of right, and then come back with a second application. I don't think that's the intent of the bylaw, though.
Seems redundant. Okay, anybody else? John, any comments?
No, she's addressed all the comments I had in my letter, so.
Any thoughts on the, from a zoning perspective, the open, whether it's a door or not? What have you seen in the past?
I've seen some flexibility with that. You know, I understand the concern, but at the same time, I've seen in-law suites in different shapes and sizes and different configurations. So, you know, if the building commissioner was satisfied with, you know, the connection between the in-law suite and the house, and that satisfied the bylaws, then I would defer to him on that.
Okay, well, he's not here anymore.
He's not, but he was the zoning enforcement officer at the time, and we did meet with him, and I actually have the sketch plan that we presented to him that he reviewed, and this plan was drafted based on his comments. You know, he accepted the application as his determination was that it complied with the zoning bylaw. And if you're interested, I can.
Okay. Are there any neighbors or anybody from the public that would like to comment on this?
Ms. Peretti did speak to all of her neighbors and circulated plans throughout the neighborhood, and I know nobody's here, but I think that's a sign that nobody had any concerns, and that's certainly what was expressed to her by her neighbors.
So this is the only way between the existing house and the in-law.
Right. What's your thoughts on? If it's open, you know.
It almost seems like an entirely separate dwelling, actually.
Could, if you took this door out, this becomes a hall, you just have a door here.
Right.
Well, that's a thought.
For both
Then
to
it's
enter.
close.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that's the only thing I'm questioning is that,
Yeah.
that one access
It's just
into
that
the,
one
into the
little-
rest of the house.
yeah.
I don't wanna sit here and redesign somebody's plan, but,
No.
I
mean-
think
No, I think,
if the
yeah.
applicant, you know, had it as one of our conditions that it remains open to the existing kitchen through the hallway, I'd have no problem with it.
What we're talking about
good
is
idea.
taking out the current door from the garage to the house, making it an open area.
So the door or the
door.
The actual physical door?
The physical door. Put a door at the top of the stairs, but,
Rather than taking out
but
this door.
take out that door, make it an opening, and that kind of makes it all one interior structure.
So, I mean, if that's the board's position, I'll certainly discuss it with the applicant. I mean, again, I think there are rooms that are certainly closed off with doorways, but, I mean, we would.
I think
It just seems tight.
it's an in-law suite. It connects, it's supposed to be part of the existing home, which we might even be stretching it a little bit because this is an addition to an existing home, and you've already covered that, you know, and we've seen this before. But, you know, there's gotta be some way that the applicant can show that this is not a separate, just a separate unit. It is, you know, how it's connected to the house. And the best way to show that it's connected to the existing house is that you have a flow through there. And the more I look at it is, it's an L-shaped hallway, so it's not even as if, you know, you're gonna be looking right out into the main house.
Mhm. Excuse me.
Yep. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly are doors into other spaces in homes, but they're typically not doors into fully equipped, kitchens, in my, like, obviously into bedrooms there are doors and things
Right.
like that, but when you go into the bedroom, you don't find a fully functional suite with a kitchen and everything else. So I think that's the intent here, is that
My
it
intent
is
is that it's,
integral to the.
my intent is that it's not closed off as a separate unit.
Right, exactly.
So,
I don't know.
I just spoke with the applicant, and she would be willing to stipulate to that.
That makes it better for everybody, yeah, including the neighbors and people 25 years down the road. When somebody thinks that they have a two-family apartment, so. Okay. Nothing else? Drew, any comments?
No, I think the plan looks good.
No, I'm fine with it.
Very good.
I'm okay.
Okay, good. Okay, do you want to close the hearing?
Yes, thank you.
Do we need anything else, Amy?
No.
Okay. Okay, could I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mary Jane,
Second?
second by Bob. No, this is just to close the hearing, and everybody can vote on closing the hearing. All those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay, the hearing is closed. So, as far as the decision, I would say, let's reference the plan. The plan is dated
Oops.
a few different plans.
Closed some stuff.
So plot plan is dated August 2018. No date. Yep. Okay, August 2018 for the plot plan. And,
Some substitute.
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay.
It says, mine has October 10th
The plot plan?
on the revised plans right here.
That's right, the one that was provided
Yeah,
today.
October 10th, yeah. Yep.
Okay, site plan, October 10th, that is the revised plot plan. And then the layout is in a plan also dated
Yep.
October 10th.
Yep, October 10th.
Yep.
So, standard conditions plus the one revision is that there will be no door no door separating the in-law suite from the main house.
Now, John, will that have to be verified before occupancy is granted?
It'll be in the decision, so that's sufficient. When the building inspector looks at it, they'll have the decision, and we can check,
Yep.
make sure that happens. Anything else, Amy?
I don't think so. I think she references all of the points of how it meets everything.
No, you did a nice job outlining everything for us, how it meets the requirements, and we're seeing a lot of these, so if people are watching at home, follow that format. If you can outline everything, that's
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
And you have all those for the decision,
Yeah,
all
all
those plans. Okay, could I have, and by the way, all members will be voting on this. Suzanne's not here tonight, so Drew, Rick, Bob, Mary Jane, and I will all be voting on this. Okay, any final comments? You good with the decision? Okay, could I have a motion to approve 19 Cherokee Lane for the in-law suite as described in the conditions we just outlined? So moved. Okay.
Second.
Moved by Bob, second by Mary Jane. Okay, everybody's voting on this. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Very good, carries 5-0. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving along, next. Okay, second case this evening is Titanium Group, case number 24-18. You here this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Mark Bobrowski. I'm going to hand you a memo if you'll be kind enough to circulate that. Make sure you have enough copies.
So we're going to just go through the legal notice and a few other things for this before we get started.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is the legal notice that was in the Walpole Times. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Walpole, will hold a public hearing in the main meeting room of Town Hall on Wednesday, December 5th, 2018 at 7 p.m. for the application of Titanium Group LLC, case number 24-18, with respect to property located at 2285 Providence Highway, Route 1, Walpole, in zoning district HBD. Application is for a special permit under section 6C, 8E, 94C, 93A, 12C1 of the zoning bylaws to allow the rebuild of a gas station. The application is for variances under section 6-C8 and section 7 of the zoning bylaws to allow gasoline pumps and gasoline island that do not meet the minimum setback requirements and certain signage to show, as shown on the plans. Application may be viewed in the office of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have a couple letters from the different boards in town. We have a letter from Conservation Commission. At this time, there are no comments for the above referenced project. We have some rather lengthy comments that I think we are going to enter just the document into the record. And Mr. Bobrowski, have you seen this letter from Margaret Walker, the town engineer?
Have not.
Okay. So there's a number of issues that the town engineer brings up. There's some general comments, there's zoning requirements, parking site and traffic, drainage. So what we will do is make sure that, if necessary, you get a copy of this.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have from the planning board. The planning board is in receipt of your request for comments of the above filing. Please be advised that there are no planning comments at the time. The planning board has scheduled a public hearing for site plan approval on January 3rd, 2019. We have a letter from the Board of Health. They have no specific concerns or comments regarding special permit and variance requirements. From the Sewer and Water Commission, the Board of Sewer and Water Commissioners concur with the comments of the town engineer with regard to the above project. We have a letter from Paul Barry, Deputy Fire Chief. The fire department has reviewed the plans and application for the above-mentioned location. We have the following comments to offer. We have concerns with the location of the pumps closest to Route 1 and the entrance driveway. Page 5 of the impact statement discusses impact to the Water Protection District, Section 12C. States that there are existing tanks on the site. The tanks were removed in November 2017. Attachment number 3. Page 5 of 8, general notes, the city of Brockton is noted. Maybe that's a typo, okay. And I think that was all we had from comments of the board. Okay. Does everybody have a set of plans in front of them?
John?
Yep.
I had comments as well.
Okay.
Sit down, please.
Okay. So, John Charbonneau, Community Planning Director, has a number of comments here, talking about the Water Protection Overlay District. Okay, so, and, yes, this is a three pages of comments. Has the applicant seen this?
No, not
Okay.
yet.
Has the applicant sought to, have they been in to get any correspondence or anything? Okay. Okay, why don't you go ahead and present what you have for us this evening, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. introduce myself before. I'm Mark Bobrowski. My office is in Concord, and I represent the applicant Titanium Group LLC. There is an existing gas station on the facility. If you have your plans set, you can see that on the second page. I have a reduced copy. I hope you do too. But there is a one-story block building with 1,300 square feet that is a non-conforming structure. It's located 5.7 feet from the side lot line. And if you look at page 3 rather, sheet 3, you'll see that the proposal is to add roughly about 20 by 28 square foot addition to the rear of the existing building in that same side yard, and to locate the tanks approximately in the location that they were previously, with a more modern canopy and pumps in the front area. There's a table, if you look at the bottom of the sheet, sheet 3 of 8, there's a zoning analysis. Minimum lot size is 40,000 square feet. The existing lot is 14,810. It's about 3.02 feet short on frontage. Again, it's a non-conforming structure. The lot coverage is listed there. Building height is only 18 feet as proposed. Setback would be 1.7 feet, that's to the canopy. 26 feet, 0.7 to the rear setback, and the existing building, 5.7 feet, will be left at that location, 5.7 feet from the side setback. So I'm going to ask our engineer, Hal Chuba, to walk through the drawings that he's prepared and to give you more detail. Before he does, I'll indicate that the permitting path that we're pursuing tonight was just like the last applicant, recommended to us by the outgoing Dave Norton. And so when we prepared the application, he literally sat with my associate, Chris Alphin, walked him through the zoning bylaw and told us what to apply for. So that we didn't know he was leaving, we were dutiful, and we've tried to do our best to accommodate his suggestions. I'll turn it over to Hal, and then I'll take the mic back and walk through each of the special permits.
Just a quick question. How long ago was the site operated as a gas station?
I think that the tanks were pulled out of the ground in 17. 17? Yeah. So it's been about
in operation.
It is not a 2-year use it or lose it situation. It was operated within the last 2 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Hal Chuba. I'm a consulting engineer with offices at 112 State Road in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. And as Attorney Bobrowski indicated, I'll go through the plans, and I can address some of the comments I heard. I haven't seen any comments from the town engineer, but I can certainly have some general comments and feedback on this project. The site is located at 2285 Providence Highway. Currently it's closed. It used to be a gasoline filling station as of last November 17. On the site, if you look to the north in this area here, there used to be 3 single-wall tanks. One with 6,000 gallon, another one with 6,000 diesel, one 6,000 regular, 8,000 regular, and 6,000 super. So basically we had 20,000 gallon of fuel in that location. And I can go, some of the confusion with the fire department showing that there's no existing tanks on the site. The tanks were removed back in November 17th. But the original application was to replace the existing fuel tanks with the same capacity as the proposed tanks. And I believe at that time, my client or the applicant was trying to reestablish the use of the gasoline station without going through the zoning board or any boards, because this is an existing non-conforming use that hasn't ceased in 2 years. So basically we thought, or initially when I contacted the building commissioner, this is an existing site. Replacing the site, the tanks is a maintenance or a repair. And ultimately it was because of the result of the change in DEP regulations, you can't have a single wall steel tanks in the ground by August of 17. So you have to replace it. And if you're operating under within that time, you can go to the fire department, get permit, take the tanks out, replace them with the double wall tanks. The canopy that was on the site also was an existing non-conforming structure, and I think Attorney Bobrowski can add to that. I think it was constructed by a zoning permit from the zoning board, but it was taken down at the time when the tanks were removed. So in this area here, there used to be a 36 by 55 steel overhead canopy, about 1,980 square feet with four fueling pumps underneath it. So when they removed the tanks, they removed the pumps and the canopy. The building's still there. It's a 1,300 square foot building C-store. Just so you know, according to your zoning bylaws, or in compliance with the zoning bylaws, the gas station use is allowed use by right in the district, and retail is an allowed use in the district. But because at the site is in the water resource protection, underground storage tanks or storage of hazardous materials are not allowed. So based on that, we thought with the initial review that going to the fire department, getting building permit to replace the tanks with the same capacity, and replace the canopy with the similar canopy in the same location that was approved under previous zoning permit, 1.7 feet from the lot line, would not trigger any zoning or planning or site plan review. But at that time, I believe either the building commissioner determined that a zoning review is needed, or because of the change in the capacity of the tanks, you have to go through the zoning board because this is an expansion of existing non-conforming structure or non-conforming use. So this is where we came here. This is how you see now with the plans. With the site plan, we are proposing to replace the previously existed 3 tanks with 2 tanks, but with different capacity. We're increasing the capacity from 20,000 gallons to 30,000 gallons. The 2 proposed tanks would be installed in the same vicinity of the previously removed 3 tanks. The difference would be there would be double wall fiberglass with continuous monitoring, in compliance with all the new environmental fire regulations. And also, we are proposing to replace the canopy with the smaller canopy within the same setback that previously existed, 1.7 feet from the property line. The new canopy would be 24 by 72, about 1,728 square feet, about a couple of hundred square feet smaller than the existing one. So if we had an existing non-conforming structure, we're replacing it with a structure that it's more conforming, I would say, or less non-conforming. The building would remain in the same, the existing building would be expanded to the rear of the property, and the reason we are showing the revision, this was an afterthought because we have to come in front of the zoning board in any case, so we thought it would make sense that if there was any plans for an expansion in the future, to do it now while we're here. And again, because the existing building is only 1,300 square feet. I mean, if you are familiar with gas stations, I'm sure you are, and especially along that corridor, gas station with 1,300 square feet, if you take the storage area, the utility room, the bathroom, you probably end up with 500-600 square feet of retail. It's not really, you cannot support or sustain a business or compete with other, existing gas stations in the area. The addition is about 560 square feet, and it would require an additional 3 parking spaces. We do have the parking spaces on the site. The entire site is currently covered with impervious surfaces. There's no green space on the site, so it's all covered by buildings, paved parking, and impervious surfaces. The addition would not meet the rear setback, And this is why we're here also to ask for a variance for the setback from the rear. The front would remain the same. It's an existing non-conforming structure as far as the front setback and the side setback, because your front setback requirement is 50 feet and the building is 20.3 from the street, and the side setback, I believe it's 40 feet and the building is 5.7. So it's an existing non-conforming structure. We propose to expand an existing non-conforming structure, and that's also why we're here. It's like either special permit or a variance. As far as, I haven't seen the comments from the engineer, and I heard drainage and traffic, and I just like to tell the board that this is, again, this is an existing gas station that has a building on it. It had the pumps. We're replacing the same number of pumps in the same location with the smaller canopy. Also had 20,000 gallon single wall tanks. We believe that the double wall is an improvement, especially we are in the water protection district area. The addition is an addition to the building, and that's why we looked at the site. The addition is proposed within an existing paved area, so there'll be no increase to the impervious area. There'll be no change to the grades on site. There'll be no change to the drainage pattern. The building is already connected to sewer and water, electric. We're not bringing any utilities. There'll be no increase to the utilities. There'll be no tax to the existing infrastructure in town. The lighting remains the same. Access to the site is the same, except with the site layout, we will provide a handicap accessible sidewalk to the building. We would stripe the parking, delineate all the parking spaces on site, and that would improve basically safety and traffic circulation. So we believe that the proposed addition, the modest addition, I would say the 560 square feet had no increase to the drainage system or to the impervious, and again, I'm not sure what the comments from the town engineer, but we'll be,
So, I think, we've opened the hearing tonight. We've got some information from you. We'll ask some questions.
Sure.
But what I would expect is that, once we're done this evening, you'll get, the comments from, both John and also the fire department and also the town engineer. And then you'll be able to address those, and have answers for the next meeting. I just wanna put that out there. That's sort of the way I would expect this is going to go.
Sure.
I think you've, laid out what you're proposing to do. Some things improve the site, such as, the new tanks, as you said, increase the capacity, but, now they're monitored tanks, and that's a positive. I guess, as noted by the town engineer and others, some concern about the proximity to Route 1 with the canopy, and you've said that the existing is now gone, right? I mean, it's
correct.
It's
Yes.
been taken. It's been taken out.
Yes.
So I think that's something that you'll have to look at. Seems like there's a lot going on this small lot, and that's my takeaway from it. But doesn't mean it can't continue. It's an appropriate use out on the highway. So, any other thoughts from board members?
I guess just my initial reaction, I think, picking up on the comment from the fire department, was the proximity of the two pumps, separate and apart from where the canopy is located. But one of the variances that's requested, as I understand it, is that the two pumps will be located within the setback, the front setback, which is 50 feet required in this zone. It looks like those pumps will be much closer, and I think that just gives me some concern, given the proximity to Route 1 there and pulling in and out of the lot. I don't know if any thought was given to arranging the pumps parallel to Route 1 as opposed to perpendicular to them, or, in order to comply, and in addition, what the, the hardship would be to move the pumps to a compliant location.
I mean, we
Those-
certainly can look at it, but, the pumps are located where the existing pump were before, and I'm not sure as far as the pumps, I mean, definitely it's a concern to you, and I can understand that. I'm not sure if the 50-foot setback will apply to a pump. I'm not, unless in the definition of the zoning bylaws, a pump is a structure. I think certainly the canopy, if you're talking about the canopy would have to be 50 feet from the street line. But we can look into that and we can discuss it.
I had one question. So you're renovating an existing gas station. Is this then a new site plan? Or is it are you working as the old site plan, just making some changes?
It's
It's a technical difference. I'm just curious how you're approaching it.
we're making modification to the site. It's basically the modification is really the striping. That's because you're not increasing any
No, I get that.
pavement. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're just expanding the building in a northerly direction to the rear about 20 feet to increase the retail area.
Yeah, okay, so my second comment is you're putting the expansion of the building closer to the property line than the existing building is.
Correct.
Small point, 5.7 versus
Right.
5.6.
Right.
I think it'd be appropriate if you didn't make it any closer.
Okay.
You
Well,
know.
that's why we're here for,
Sure.
we're here for the variance
Yeah.
on the setback.
No.
It's not.
I think it's actually a little bit further away.
No,
I
it's
think he's talking
it's a tenth of a foot closer.
Yeah, it's 5.7 feet now, and it would be 6.5 in that new addition at the back corner.
Yeah, but it becomes one building. You
Yes,
put
I
an
agree.
addition on it, becomes one building, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's actually slanted a little bit further away from the property line. We're talking about.
Yeah, it's a minor
0.8
thing,
feet,
yeah, right.
The point is, it's not increasing the nonconformity on the.
The
west-
side.
The west side of the property. It's nowhere near compliant.
No,
right?
no,
So-
no, yeah.
So it's not getting closer than 5.7 feet, but even in the back setback, it goes to 5.6 feet. So I think you're asking
I see
for.
what you're saying there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We deal with non-conforming structures. We don't want to make them more non-conforming.
You're right.
Less is
I
great.
I was just purely focusing on the side, not I would
Yeah.
call that more the rear.
Right,
Okay.
but that's not, I mean, we can
We can
shrink.
fix
Sure,
it
you can take
further,
care of
that's
that.
not,
Yep.
But it will be
Couple
more
of feet.
non-conforming even at 5.7, because right now.
Because the rear,
setback is-
yes, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, would you like me to walk through the old 1999 permit and the changes that we're requesting tonight from?
Yeah, why don't we do
From the
do
bylaws
that?
perspective?
So if you wanna.
We're a little bit surprised to hear that the planning board is meeting with us in January. We thought we would be there tomorrow then. And that may still be the case.
It still may be the case.
We'll check. Okay.
Yeah.
I can actually, want me to run upstairs and check on that?
That'd be nice, John.
Because I thought it was tomorrow night as well.
Yeah. So, in your packet, I think it's attachment number 2 in the application, you have the Board of Appeals decision, case number 18/99. And that's the variance and special permits granted in 1999. I'll let you catch up with me. And I'm gonna walk just through the first page because the rest of it is the details. Should be after the, looks like it's after the Google Earth.
April 28th, 1999, got it.
Yep, are we good?
Yeah.
So there were 4 special permits that were granted back then, and this is referencing the old bylaw sections, you recodified it since then. The first one was for the canopy. The second, and that was to allow it to be the 1.7 feet from the line. The second one was to alter the non-conforming structure by performing interior and exterior renovations and converting the building to retail store use. Third one was to change or alter the pre-existing non-conforming use by authorizing diesel and storage. The fourth one, special permit, was to allow the expansion or alteration of the filling station by authorizing sale and storage of diesel fuel in Area 3 of the WRPOD. And then there were 3 variances. 2 were for signs, and 1 was for the installation of new fuel pumps and fuel islands within the front setback. So you can see the kind of proximity to Route 1 that we're talking about now was authorized back in the '99 decision of the board. And very little of that is changing in terms of the distance from the, in the proposed site layout, virtually the same. Canopy 1.7 feet, and the building obviously is non-conforming, and in the front yard, the side setback will change that to keep it at or better than what it was. And the pumps, I think, it's hard to tell because in the sheet 1 showing old conditions, there are no pumps. They're just showing a box where the pumps were removed, so I can't look at the distance that the pump is actually to the line there. In the new application that is in front of you, and these are the provisions detailed in the memo that I handed out at the beginning of the presentation, we're pretty much tracking the old permit. It's not that different in terms of the relief that we're seeking then and the relief that was granted, the relief that we're seeking now and the relief that was granted then. The first one's a special permit under 9-4C for the expansion of the non-conforming structure. That's the 20-foot enlargement. And there are standards in the bylaw, and as well as our response to those are in the memo. I know that we're going to be back, so I'll save that for the wrap-up. The second one is a special permit under 9-3.A, expansion of the use. This is most of all having to do with the increase in the size of the building and the increase in the size of the tank storage capacity from 20,000 to 30,000. The third one is the installation of the canopy. We're changing the canopy. It's not the same, more square canopy. This one's more rectangular. It is smaller, but it is still closer, so Mr. Norton advised us to seek another special permit. Your bylaw, I would point out, does call out a canopy for gasoline service stations is permitted by special permit from the board, and we've cited that in the memo. And the criteria for the special permit are addressed on the bottom of the second page. I won't dwell on them tonight. Number 4 on the next page, 12-3C1, this is the WRPOD standard. C1 does state that the board, there is an allowance rather for a expansion of a non-conforming use within the WRPOD. The board has to find that it will not be substantially more detrimental to the water supply than the existing use. A single hull steel tank is far more detrimental than a double hull modern tank. So we think we would meet that standard. There are variances requested under 6-C8 for the minimum setbacks, and that has to do primarily with the side of the building. Again, the lot, we will argue in our closing argument, is a pre-existing site. Variances have been granted for this relief already, and we're not making the conditions any worse. I think adding 20 feet, as Mr. Chuba pointed out, is a business necessity in this day and age when you're competing with the other installations that are on Route 1. And then lastly, signs. We'll go through in detail the signs for you when we make our next presentation. Having been here before, I'm expecting that we'll go to the planning board, whether it's tomorrow or in January, and they'll break us through the coals in terms of every one of these details. Are you expecting us to come back at your next meeting, or would you rather have us do more due diligence with the planning board before we do?
I think it would be best if you did due diligence with the planning board, and also take the comments that we're going to provide you tonight. That would be the best way for you to proceed, I would think.
Sure.
Resolve some of those issues, so that John's available, Maggie Walker, the town engineer's available, If you can get those sorted out and come to us and, you know, after a meeting of the minds, that would be, moves things along better for you.
I recall when I was here last time, we worked out most of the details with the planning board and then came back when we were done. And so I think we'll work out the bulk of that with the planning board to the extent that we can, and then we'll pay you a visit again, perhaps in 30 to 45 days.
John, when is that meeting with the planning?
January 3rd it is, because we had a pretty full agenda on the 6th, with some continuances, so it is January 3rd.
Okay.
Let me bring my calendar.
Our next meeting is January 2nd, I think. So, do we have a second meeting scheduled for January?
The 60th.
60.
Are there any neighbors or people from the public that want to comment on this? Is the owner here?
Yes, Mr. Drury is sitting in the rear.
Any comments? Well, you let your attorney talk for you, that's fine. Sometimes that's a good thing.
He has some kind of his own.
Yeah, no.
Good evening, member of the board, Ronan Drury, and we own several gas stations in other towns, and we would like to come to the town and pretty much renovate this location. I know you were making some comments about the canopy. We pretty much just try to restore the existing, what was there. We did try to turn the canopy, according to your comment, in a few different directions, and it just didn't work, you know, because you would be facing the back of the property. It's hard to make a U-turn, you know, if you were facing any other direction. The way it's set right now, you will be coming from Route 1, coming to the pump, and then you will just go back to Route 1. If you came this way, you will be pointing this way. It's hard to make a U-turn. So basically, we're just trying to restore the existing condition. Pretty much expanding the store, just as my engineer said, a lot of people don't think about it, but 1,500 square feet of a store is, once you take the cooler, you take your store, you take your counter, there's really not that much left. So we're trying to expand the store to economically make it work for us, investing a lot of money in building a brand new station. I definitely think that putting a brand new tanks, fiberglass, which, you know, it's something that the future and prevent it from all the leakage or these detectors on it. But we can overcome all the problems, I think, with engineers and everything, as long as the board let us restore everything to the way it was. If the board is objected to it, we would just not even proceed to the next step, because it cannot move much. I mean, it could move maybe a foot to the right or a foot to the left, but not by that much. We were not trying to, I know you said that this is a tight site, but the average gas station really sit on 5,000 square feet, 7,000 square feet. So this is actually double the size of an average gas station that you see in a corner. I mean, we're not talking about huge Cumberland Farms, but we don't do a business of Cumberland Farm. You know, we pretty much a family business that would like to come to the town. So, you know, volume is not as high as they are. You know, we're trying to make the store a little bit bigger. As we were talking, I was talking to my attorney, and it's amazing. Today you walk to a store. Years ago, you had 2 coolers, Coke, Pepsi, water, that's it. Today, the variety forced us to put 20 doors. It's not that you get more people getting there, it's just people drink different things. And the same thing with if it's chips or if it's candy. So it's just the variety that we're trying to fit into such a small square footage. So we require that. But if the board have any suggestion right now that we can improve it, if you said, hey, if you took this back 4 feet or 3 feet or 2 feet, and you would still let us build it, we'll be happy to make it smaller, to make the board happy. But if you say this is absolutely not gonna go, we will just take it down. You know, we're trying to make it, again, work for us after we're gonna spend so much money building it. But the same thing with the pump. Again, we were really tracing the old footprint of the old pump and putting them exactly where it would work with the parking, making it extremely comfortable. And as we always said, if it doesn't work for us, even if the board approve it, customers would not come there. It's uncomfortable, it's tight. You know, you come there once, you put gas, you said, I'm never coming here. You know, it's too tight, it's hard for me to come in. So we do try to make it roomy, spacey, and try to work with what we have. But back again to the footprint of what was there before, and that's why, you know, we were trying to like pretty much copy what was there and not try to add anything beside, just kind of trying to get a little bit of more of a footprint of a retail store. So that's my comment.
Yeah.
So close to Route. I still have concerns about the pumps being so close to Route 1. I understand that at the prior time and place, that was acceptable. That's years ago, and times change. Traffic increases. The road has been done over and expanded so that while you are trying to keep it the same, citing the fact that years ago this was acceptable. And as I said, my point is this is years later, and just as if you're going to do something in any kind of a public building, it was acceptable the way it is, but the minute you take a door down, you immediately have to look at everything else that you have to do to bring it up to code. So I'm certainly not an expert at this, but I do feel that circumstances have changed. And I do have concerns about the proximity to Route 1. The traffic that goes back and forth on Route 1 now is incredible. I've lived fairly close to there now for, 50 years, 52 years, and let me tell you, it is much more heavily traveled now. And when you have a stadium there, that's even more. So I would be concerned about the proximity. As long as you're asking the question, would we accept it sort of as it is now, realizing you've used the same footprint? I wouldn't be comfortable with that. I don't know where other people are.
I can just give you a little bit more information about the gas business. The more pumps you have, the less traffic you have. So if, let's say we took these pumps down, you would actually create more traffic behind the other ones because you're serving less people. It's just like you're going to Stop and Shop and Shaw's and there is 10 cashiers open or one. All of a sudden the traffic is actually getting backed up further instead of actually serving more people. So the pump actually helps you produce more customers faster. So it's not as close as you think. I mean, it does when you look at the plan, but it's the average gas station that you see on Route 1 or any other locations. That's exactly, so it's really not, because the pump is not as close. The canopy is the one that is close to the actual sidewalk because it's covering you when you're pumping gas, but the pump is not as close when you're pumping gas.
The visual of the canopy there is the canopy, it's not the pillar, so.
Yeah, it's the edge of the canopy that it's overhanging, but the pump is actually still far away from.
Oh, no, I
the road.
understand that. I'm just referring to where they were, and you're saying instead of having 4, you're going to have 2. Essentially, they will be where 2, only 2, but in the same footprint. I don't have any problem with the tanks. I don't have any problem with the additional volume in the tanks. But I do think we need to take a serious look at. I mean, if the engineer is bringing it up.
You can see that our engineer's working on it already.
Okay.
So we hear you loud.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, I think, I understand, let me say, I mean, yes, we might have an opportunity here to improve what was there, but I can tell you from now, there's no way we're gonna meet the 50-foot setback. I mean, I already pushed the pumps a few feet away from the street, and again, I understand that, but also when we look at the street, I mean, you have to, this is 13 feet from the property line, there's another 10 foot of right of way between, so basically we're over 20 feet from the street, from the actual street, but I will look into this, we did look into this, and because of Route 1, it's a one-way basically, so you only can come in, you make a right turn, and you leave, you make a right turn out. So the way that the pump's situated, this is what we call a dive-in, that can move more clients in less time than the older ones. So you'll have less stacking at the pump. But again, I will go back and I'll try to improve this as much as we can, because I understand this is an issue. Now we have an opportunity because the canopy is not there. So we'll look at this, and also I will look into this and I'll make sure that we don't exceed the existing non-conforming as far as the setback. We'll push it a few feet back. I'll look at the comments from the engineer. We'll try to, I'll look at the comments from the fire And we will comply. I mean, we will comply with all rules and regulations, and it's not, this is the intention here. And we'll come back and we'll see what, but we
John.
understand.
Can I piggyback on that for a
Sure.
second?
Yeah.
Is everyone familiar with the Speedway on 126 in North Bellingham near 495? Very tight site. I think the concern here with the tight site and the pump so close to the roadway is not the regular passenger vehicle. It's box trucks, it's landscaping with a pickup truck and a trailer. Not only, now you're gonna have a convenience store, so when one of those trucks pulls in between the pumps, you may not be able to get another car to that pump next to it until they leave. Or they park between the pumps and the roadway to go in for coffee, lottery tickets, whatever. Now all of a sudden that gums up the circulation within that site. That's the part that concerns me. It's not the regular passenger vehicle, it's the trucks that have to go through this site. And I'd like to just give a quick preview, if I could, of my comments, and a lot of which don't apply to necessarily the ZBA approval, but the planning board. You're applying for site plan approval.
Yes.
I understand that it's a renovation, but we still have submission requirements. A lot of the submission requirements were not met, and I think Maggie's comments reflect that too. There's no details on signage, lighting, anything. So that, you're gonna see those are my comments. Because I have a very simple rule. When I review an application, I go through our zoning bylaws and submission requirements. If I don't see it, I expect to see a waiver request. And with all this information, I'm not seeing either. So now, the planning board would not want you amending these plans before the public hearing because they want to wait for those comments to become public before you start changing plans. They want to see these plans at your first public hearing. Then you can change them. But I just wanted to give a little bit of heads up because in my mind, there's a long way to go. Because they did not include a lot of the information. I understand it's an existing site, existing impervious, but there was no drainage report submitted. It's still an application for site plan approval, and we need to have something to review for drainage. So those are just my comments, so I apologize.
Yeah, again, to Jane's comment, what she was getting at was that station was there for a long time, but Route 1 has been widened at least once, maybe twice, since that. And it didn't encroach on the properties. You know, they just had extra land on the side. They had like 20 feet on the side. Now they've pushed the pavement up. So that's part of the concern, you know, historically.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do is, we'll get, if not tonight, tomorrow, you can get a copy of the comments from fire department, town engineer, and from John, and move forward with those. Suggest you talk to John on it, because for economic development, this is a perfect area. And I think your point was very good about, don't change the plans until.
Until the public hearing with the planning board opens.
Right.
Because now all of a sudden the departments have reviewed one plan, now you're presenting another at the public hearing, and it's not fair to the public who's gonna be at that meeting. We wanna see the plans as they're proposed, then coming out of that, once you get further comments from the planning board and the comments from the departments, then you can start.
So
making
may I ask
decisions.
Mr. Charbonneau if he would scan the engineer's report in his own letter and the other miscellaneous items in there and send it to me tomorrow, because we're gonna get to work on that as soon as we possibly can. So
You can do that,
give me
John?
my
Yeah,
email.
absolutely. Oh, thanks, Mark.
When are your January meetings?
So we have one on January 2nd, but that's not gonna help you. And then the next one is the 16th.
I actually have a question as the zoning board. Is this property allowed to be open just the way it was, or the property lost all the rights?
Well, that's one of the things we talked at the beginning, whether it's been 2 years,
It's
and it
not.
has not been 2 years, right?
So I think the provisions of the 1999 variance and special permits are still in fact.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's not even, in the respect that they have special permits, it's not even, you know, it might have been a non-conforming structure before those permits were issued, because they were issued under your new section 9, if you will, the equivalent of it today. So if they were to go back and do what the old plans show, I think they have the right to just maintain and repair it without effect.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, but one of the things you even made the point, that putting in logic, you're saying, we wanna work, you know, we want this to be successful, we want it to be safe. It's a good location on the highway, you know, I hope you're not feeling that the zoning board is, you know, trying to block you, it's
No,
just, we want it done correctly.
No, there are requests to alter the old 1999 permit and plan, so we need to be here.
Yeah.
We get that.
We just wanna know that, obviously, in case that we cannot work with moving or anything, we are allowed to actually go and rebuild what was there before and just keep it the way it was.
I think that's a question for your attorney, but,
Well, and also to build on Mary Jane's point about things changing,
Well,
not only do physical things change, but regulations change as well. Mass DOT has gotten a lot stricter with their stormwater. They don't want any stormwater running off onto their right of way, so those are the things that change. Building codes change, regulations change over time, so even though the provisions of that variance, that special permit is still in place, other things have changed.
So we're dividing it into a zoning perspective and a regulatory perspective. I think regulations might have changed, but we have existing rights under the 99 special permit with variance.
right. And what's your, you think he asked the question, and I'm saying, have your attorney answer.
Well, I'd like
What
to
do you
read
think?
Maggie's comments, and I'd like to read John's comments.
But no, just on the question about go back and build the way it was.
If it's too hard a row to hoe, yeah, that's what we'll likely do.
Yeah.
But I'd like to read their comments first.
Okay.
I mean, it may not be worth it for 20 feet of additional retail space and a revamped location for fuel pumps and canopy. That's pretty much what we're talking about.
Right.
So it may not be worth the struggle.
Very good. So, do you want to continue this until the 16th of
Sure.
January, or do you want to push it out further?
Let's keep it on the 16th, and if we're not ready, we'll let you know, and we'll just push it out by letter. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, could I have a motion to continue the hearing until January 16th, 2019?
7 PM in this room.
Yes.
So moved.
So moved. Jane? Second by Bob. All those in favor of continuing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carried. Okay, continued at the request of the applicant. Okay.
That was the other thing I thought,
That's my agenda. Thank you, Bill.
I annexed it.
Okay, the next case is case number 25-18, Michael Valeri, 46 to 50 Kendall Street for a special permit, and we'll go through that. Okay, just a few legal things here. The legal notice is, notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals for the Town of Walpole will hold a public hearing in the main meeting room, Town Hall, Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, at 7 PM, on an application from Michael Valeri, case number 25-18, with respect to property located at 46 to 50 Kendall Street, Walpole, Mass., zoning district GR. Application is for a special permit under 9-4A of the zoning bylaws to allow a second-story addition of unit number 46. Application may be viewed at the Office of the Board of Appeals. We have a couple comments, one from Town Engineer Maggie Walker for Kendall Street. Application of this case notes bylaw section 9.04A. This section of the bylaw is applicable to a one- or two-family dwelling. The board should confirm that this section of the bylaw is applicable in this case, as it appears the address of the property is 46 to 50, which would consist of 3 units. The application should clarify as to what the subject property address is. The special permit for section of the application says 46 to 50. The existing condition plans indicates 48 to 50, and the owner address for the application indicates 50. Number 3, there is no narrative provided as to what the applicant believes his nonconformance is. And the application states the purpose of the special permit filing is for a second-story addition. The applicant should confirm for the zoning board of appeals that there are no expansions of any possible existing nonconformity due to the addition. And she provides that document. We have a letter from no comments at this time from John?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Conservation Commission, the commission has no comments at this time on the above referenced matter. Fire Department has reviewed the plans in application for the above mentioned location. We have the following comments to offer. The applicant has already submitted plans indicating locations of new smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Those were reviewed, approved as noted, and returned to the applicant should the applicant's request be approved. Well, not directly related to the request at hand, we do request confirmation that the use of the garage building on the rear of the property does not include a residential unit. And that is it for comments from the board. So, why don't I just ask that question from the deputy fire chief? There's a garage unit at the rear of the property?
There is, yes.
Does that include a residential unit?
There's a unit, it's not being used, it's not a legal unit.
Okay.
It's an office area.
Okay, so it's not a residential?
Not a residential.
Okay. Is it rented out as an office area?
No.
Okay.
Hasn't been the property at number 50.
Okay. That also clears up one of the other questions. So.
And as far as the 904, the request out to the building inspector told me that was we're down for it.
Okay. So.
For the request.
So you live in unit 50?
Correct.
At the property? And what unit are you looking to expand?
Unit 46. It currently has a partial second floor with a very narrow staircase, very tiny bedroom, tiny bathroom. The doors have been the unit's in pretty bad shape. The whole building actually was in pretty bad shape when I bought it a year and a half ago. I've renovated it a couple times, pulling permits with Dave Noonan, added egresses, porches to, for the units that didn't have them, and renovated a couple of the units. And this unit was particularly bad, needs an extensive renovation, and just to spend that kind of money to renovate it and then put it back the way it is sort of pointless,
So you want to go, what we're talking about here is going up?
Going up, yes, it's existing non-conforming because it sits too close to the front, I guess, to the street currently, but there's no change in the footprint. And again, it currently the unit has a partial second floor that would just be demolished and, create a second floor with a tire unit.
This is the old cider mill, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I bought it a year and a half ago.
Okay, why don't you walk us through what you're proposing, and do people have plans for this?
Yeah, Amy sent me some plans.
I have a much smaller.
Okay, so you'll look on, do you want a full-size set?
Yeah.
Drew?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if you want to just introduce yourself and explain what you're proposing to do.
My name is Michael Blair. If you look at the existing conditions, you see that the building sort of has a partial second floor. Again, we're looking to remove that and add a second floor to the entire unit. Also to renovate the entire unit with a new kitchen, new bath.
Okay.
So the height of the new second floor will be the same as what's existing there now?
Yes, it'll, the existing remain, the frame will the new A-frame would be no higher than the existing. Although it wouldn't align because the building actually jogs to the front there, so the two roofs wouldn't line up necessarily on the ridge, but the addition would not be any higher than the existing.
You've worked with the, have you talked to the new building inspector on this? Because,
Briefly, like I said, I know I heard you earlier, Dave's not here anymore. I was working pretty closely with him, like I say, about a year and a half ago. Again, I've widened egresses, added egresses where there were none, renovated the apartments, all with permits, and the fire department's been out there 3 times for smoke inspections on all the other, they're all hardwired and everything else. Just briefly with the new inspector, showed him the plans, figured out that I needed a special permit, and applied for that. He's actually the one who told me to apply under that 904A section. I guess that's the wrong section to apply under, but 'cause it's not a two-family.
yeah, I think the question is, it's not a 2-family, it's a 3-family. That's really the question that is
It's
being
actually
raised.
4.
Right.
It's 4 units.
4 units.
Yeah.
4
And there's
units.
currently 2 parking spaces for each, there'll be no additional parking space, no additional driveway, no.
So,
Appears that under, there are other sets, instead of A, there's B and C that deal with non-conforming buildings other than 1 and 2 family buildings, which allows for special permits to be granted as well. So I think it may have just been a misciting. So for example, C says existing non-conforming building other than a one or two family dwelling which is non-conforming with respect to another requirement of section 6B, other than a minimum yard setback may be enlarged or extended with a special permit. So I guess if the yard setback is the issue.
yeah, this is real close to it's real close to Kendall Street, right, on the front?
Yes, I believe it's 15. There should be a
There's a plot plan.
included with this setback, with the existing on there. Again, that wouldn't be changing those.
Right. Footprint's not changing at all,
Right.
you're just going up.
Exactly, yes.
The reason I ask about if you're working with the building inspector is, I see you have architectural, I mean, you've got these plans. You structurally, I mean, you got any thoughts on?
Everybody in trouble,
No.
so it would be a slam dunk.
Yeah, I assume the new unit will meet all the building code
Of
requirements.
course, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It's stamped by a registered architect.
Could be a condition.
As far as the roof line on the new, on number 46, that's the one we're talking about, 46?
Right.
How does this new proposed roof line compare to the roof lines of the other units?
Again, if you're looking, I'm not sure which elevation it is.
I've got them right in front of me, so.
You see where the main house sits like this with like a 12-pitch, and this one has the second floor like this, and then it has a flat roof. The new roof would be in the A-frame in the same direction, but the building sits, the unit 46 sits out further in the front than the main building, so the two roofs would be sort of offset. But again, the ridge would do no higher than the existing ridge,
Okay, so the ridge would be no higher,
than the existing ridge that's on the main house. But they wouldn't line up because the unit 46 sticks out a little further than the main house
Yep.
does.
yep.
Siding and roofing to match. I mean, it would look, no, you know, it's a typical look of something like that.
Using, the section I read was C under 9(4)B. It says that existing non-conforming building other than a 1 or 2 family dwelling, which is non-conforming only with respect to a minimum yard setback, which is what our situation is, I believe. may be enlarged or extended in any other direction in compliance with this bylaw by the issuance of a building permit, as provided in section 3.1, provided all other uses, structures, and activities on the lot comply fully with the requirements of the bylaw. So it seems to be that, I mean,
Are you questioning
there's
whether he has
the
to be
question.
here?
Well, I guess that is a question.
Well, but I also think because this is, what residence is this?
The general?
Probably has to be here because it's a 4-unit. 4 units aren't allowed in.
That's general.
It is general.
Yeah, they're allowed in general.
GR.
They are, okay.
Right.
Because the Pulte thing is right behind it, so, yeah.
Actually, most of my neighbors are condo, like townhouse condos.
Yeah.
Actually, this building is sort of, it's townhouses, set up as townhouses.
But it's all in common ownership, right?
Yes, I own the whole building, yeah.
So in that sense, the bylaw is more permissive if the only current is a yard. And you're obviously creating a new one, but if it's not a yard, that's the basis for the non-conformity, then you need a special permit. So,
So maybe he doesn't need it?
I think it needs a special permit.
you need a special permit.
Special permit because it's non-conforming and he wants to go up.
But it would, when you go up, you'll be in conformity with the maximum height limitation, or are you going higher than allowed also?
I would be in, I believe it would conform to the height as well.
You're not going any higher than the,
36 feet, yeah.
you're not going any higher than the rest of the building?
No.
So maybe he doesn't need a special permit. Under B there.
That's kind of the way that I'm reading it.
Yeah.
If he has a 12 pitch on that plan, even if I had to adjust it down to an 8 or something.
Yeah, well, that would be
It
the
wouldn't be a
thing.
problem.
Make-
I'm also a licensed builder.
Make sure it doesn't go any higher than the
We can do that.
36 feet. We could ask the building inspector.
So this was, I guess, what he was directed to file by Dave under 9A, but that's 1 and 2 families.
Yep.
But under B, it's a non-conforming building other than maybe enlarged or extended in any other direction in compliance with this bylaw. Which I read to mean you can expand it.
Including compliance with site plan where applicable.
No.
Is there any disadvantage to allowing a site, special permit?
Special permit
Yeah,
with the same,
just-
under the same. I mean, we don't really have, I guess, technically authority to issue a special permit under that provision.
Under what he applied for, but we can,
We can change it.
right, we
Yeah.
can say that he's applying under, instead of A, he's applying under B, and grants a special permit under that, although what you're saying is,
It
the
doesn't,
special permit is saying that it's not
Although,
required.
the thing is, if it's a 4-family, might need a special permit to modify it anyway, right?
because it's a 4-family, not,
Not a 2, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure.
It doesn't say.
yeah, it says if it's a building other than a 1 or 2 family dwelling,
Yeah.
so it could be a 3-family or 4 office building, as long as it's not a 1 or 2.
So how's the best way to, you know, I think, is anybody concerned about this, first of
No.
all?
No.
So, we're not concerned about it. What we're trying to do is find out how to
Yeah, I'm sorry that
legally
I,
legally
Yeah,
get you
Yeah,
what you want.
I understand, I filed it under the wrong
Yeah.
provision or whatever.
But,
Well,
The inspector told me.
if, I think you could request that the applicant withdraw without prejudice if you don't think he needs a special permit. He could withdraw the application without prejudice.
Provided the new building inspector's okay with it. I mean, he talked to the former building inspector.
Actually, the new building inspector is the one that told me to apply under that.
Oh, he did?
904. Yeah, he said that I would need it because it's existing non-conforming
Okay,
as it stands, so.
yeah.
I don't know that he'd be opposed to it, because whatever decision you make.
no, I mean,
He's the one who told me it'd be a slam dunk.
right. It is a slam dunk.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to figure out is,
Right.
How
So
right
he
it-
gave it back to him and said that he doesn't need it. I don't think he'd have a problem with that, but I can't speak for him, obviously.
does anybody from the public want to comment on this? I would be comfortable saying that allow him to withdraw without prejudice. And, Amy, we can just send a note to the building inspector saying that under, section B,
Yeah, the-
94B, we consider it as an allowed expansion, because it's not increasing the dimension, the dimensional non-conformity.
I think that would be the appropriate way to handle it.
You think so?
Yeah,
You
I
good
think
with
so.
that?
Yeah, I think that'd be the right thing to do.
Yeah, because he's not doing the footprint. If he's
No.
doing the footprint, he needs site plan
Right.
approval, yeah.
Anything else, Bob?
I think I've done enough on that.
No, I think it's good. I think, so what we're gonna do
Hopefully
is,
that'll simplify the process
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
actually.
we're going to actually ask you if you want to withdraw your application without prejudice, meaning, without prejudice means that if something happens, you can come back. You know, that's not a problem. So if you withdraw it, and we're gonna provide a letter to the building inspector saying that it's the interpretation of the zoning board that, a special permit is not required, and, under section 94-B, and you should be all set.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll agree to that.
Okay, so you, it is a slam dunk,
I
so.
apologize, after watching the first special permit presentation, I'm totally unprepared here. My first time though.
That's okay, you did fine.
So, do you want to, withdraw your application?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, and, could I have a motion to allow the applicant to withdraw his application without prejudice?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Jane.
Do we need to, just amend that, and do you need to authorize anybody to send that letter to the building inspector? Or-
Amy's shaking her head, so
Okay,
she says
all
no.
right. Very good.
We need to close the hearing?
No,
No.
because he's
Oh,
withdrawing.
that's right,
withdrawing.
withdrawn.
Yeah.
Okay,
Withdrawn.
I'll second the
Done,
motion
done.
to withdraw
Okay.
without prejudice.
Bob seconds to withdraw without prejudice. Okay, and all those in favor of allowing Mr. Valeri to withdraw without prejudice and have the zoning board send a letter to the building inspector, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried, very good. Okay.
You're all set.
Do
You're
you
all
understand-
set.
Do you understand what's going on?
Yes, I should check with the building inspector. Do you give him a day or two or
If you
something?
check with Amy, if you check with Amy,
With Amy
yep,
upstairs, yeah.
upstairs,
Yeah.
and she'll draft a letter, I'll approve it, sign it, and probably within a day or so,
A day or so.
get that done, because I understand what happened, but I think as we take a closer look at it, it's, Bob picked it up, it wasn't necessary.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we do have a couple other things that we need
You
to
have minutes?
take a look at. So, the one I wanna talk about first is, under other business, discussion item, Wood Partners, this is the 40B apartments on Moose Hill Road. Alta, it's now, I guess, known as Alta Easterly. And what they've done is they've requested a change in the landscape contractor.
Yep, she's actually here.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Very good. Do you want to just come forward and explain?
Yeah, sure. So I wasn't sure if, Amy, have you given them the agreement?
Yes, you have it in your folder.
Does everybody have it?
No.
I actually have more.
I saw it.
I think she'll probably.
Yep, that's it. Wood Partners.
Yep, that's all of what we're in there, and that's the decision.
Thank you.
There's also, if you choose to approve it, that's our draft decision.
Thank you.
Thanks.
John, have you been involved with any of this?
No, I have not.
That's fine. Okay, why don't you explain what's going on here and tell us what's up?
Sure, so I'm Maura Cronin from Wood Partners. So our LLC is Alta Moose Hill LLC. We have an agreement according to our comprehensive permit that Wood Partners Builders was actually going to do the landscaping in the abutters from 261 Moose Hill Road. Trish and Scott Curran had requested that they hire other landscapers to do this. So we said that's fine if you would like to have another landscaper do it. They also asked to have tree trimming added and a seal coat for there was a small crack on the bottom of their driveway. So we approved all of that. We're like, that's no problem. They asked to have the work done in the fall before the winter, so that all the plants would actually survive before the snow comes. So we have an agreement, which is the last attachment that I gave you, and then we also have a letter from the current saying that the work has been completed and paid in full, and then the first letter is just from Wood Partners saying that all the work has been completed and paid in full. So all we're trying to do is just say that the work has been done by these other the other landscapers, and just have it approved and have it be a minor modification or insignificant modification to the comprehensive permit.
And the neighbors are happy?
Yeah, they are happy.
They're not here?
They're not here yet. I mean, we've obviously have had like numerous conversations with them. We've made sure that they were happy with the work that was done. So we're right across the street from them, so we definitely have had a good relationship with them.
Okay. And what the applicant has provided us with is a second amendment of the permit, and it just describes the landscaping in relationship to the property.
Yep.
And it sounds like it's already been done. And if the neighbors are happy, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
That's really.
That's right.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns on this?
No?
It is nice to see somebody working well with their neighbors on a project like this. Because
Yeah, no, it's obviously very important to us.
These are neighbors across the street
Correct. Yep.
from the driveway?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is just, I mean, we have obviously lots of trucks coming by, so they just wanted to be offered to, make them happy and to have vegetation repair done, and then also the tree trimming in the cracked driveway.
And that's already been done.
Correct. Yep.
It's been done by a local landscaper and a local tree company.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, everyone's all local.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have any problem with it. I just think that the regulations speak to not doing the work first by coming here. In general, for even unsubstantial changes. So at this point, we don't really have an opportunity to comment. Not that we would on this one, but I guess in the future, to the extent that there are changes to the comprehensive permit.
Understood.
Appreciate the heads up beforehand.
Yeah, I agree. I guess, who deemed it insubstantial?
So no one did. So just our reading of the comprehensive permit. So our attorney used the language in the comprehensive permit to deem that it was insubstantial, just based on the reading of that.
John, I believe normally the applicant would have to come to the ZBA, and the ZBA would determine whether or not it's inconsequential or
true.
not. That's
Yes.
usually a board determination.
I had also exchanged an email with Amy, and then you had responded, and I was CC'd on that you said it was insubstantial.
Right.
Yeah,
And
my
the-
goal was, I added it, she's on it.
Right, and the reason why it was insubstantial is because the work is being done, it was just a change of who was going to do the work.
Right.
So, nothing changed in the agreement.
Correct.
It was just who was doing it. And,
Exactly.
so you are correct. I did say that there was nothing was changing in the permit except,
The name of the company.
who was doing it, whereas before, did it specifically say that Wood Partners was going to do this work, or was it just said
It
that
did
it was a
not,
requirement?
but we were going to be the person to do that. It was never specified.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I almost look at that as a transfer, if a comprehensive permit has a transfer of ownership, that's not a substantial change. It would be and this was basically they contracted out one of their.
Yeah,
Right,
subcontracted
subcontract.
some of the work out, that's all.
Okay. So, you need 5 signatures on this?
Yes, please.
Can I ask that you just sign 2 of them, so she gets an original and we have an original for the file?
Sure. And that can go that way, and once we're done with that,
Okay,
Now,
super, thank you.
could we sign this because we weren't involved in the original permit?
you're a member of the zoning board. I think
Okay.
there's very few people that are sitting here that were involved with the original. Were you involved with the original permit? Okay. I wish all 40Bs were that easy.
As a 40B consultant for a couple years, so I can
Oh, then you-
appreciate that.
You don't have gray hair yet.
No, thank
And
you.
you're still
Nico.
standing.
It's coming.
Hopefully, soon. All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Great, thank you. And this is a copy for the zoning board.
Oh, we kept the other
Yeah.
one.
Okay, next one is, what I'd like to do is, did somebody have a chance to review the minutes of November 7th?
I did, no
Yes.
Okay,
I
Bob,
had
any-
no comments.
Okay,
comments.
okay. So, voting on this will just be the 3 board members that were here for that meeting on November 7th. So, could I have a motion to accept the minutes of November 7th, 2018?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Bob, second by Jane. Any further discussion on the minutes? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. So that's the minutes. Our next meeting is January 2nd, and then on January 16th, we have the follow-up meeting, and it looks like we'll have the gas station from Route 1 back here.
Now, I want to bring up something here.
We're still in open session.
Sorry.
Did you want to?
Oh, I don't mind, that's fine, it can be an open session. I want to raise the issue of an article, possibly an article on the spring town meeting warrant to make it, I don't want to say mandatory or required, when a developer comes before us, whether it's a condominium, or whether it's cluster housing, whatever, that a certain percentage, in order for them to get permission, if you will, to proceed with their project, that they have to have some dedicated 40B. I raised this once before, and we didn't think at that point, I remember Bobby said, we don't have the mechanism. Well, Weston does it, Wellesley does it, I think Natick does it, I think Westwood does it, I'm not sure, but 2 or 3 of those do. So that when they come before, and if Weston can do it, I certainly think there must be a legal mechanism, so that we don't get in the situation we are now. We have these two complexes that went in downtown with substantial occupancy units in both of them, and yet we had no mechanism whereby we could say, you need to have a certain number dedicated to 40B. So, the result is, number one, we didn't mandate it, so therefore we lost the opportunity to increase the number. But secondarily, we raised the number that we actually need now, because the more developments that go in, the more units we have, it raises the number. So we're behind the 8 ball now, and I don't know who would be the appropriate one, but I do think the warrant closes the end of January, is it?
I can speak to that.
Okay,
The
yeah.
Housing Partnership is working on that. I've talked to Andrew Flowers about it. That's gonna be part of the housing production plan. However, I think because the warrant closes so soon in January, this is a major zoning bylaw amendment. That's gonna spark a lot of debate and a lot of conversation. So I think,
I'm not sure that it will, though.
I've
But
talked
you
to,
know what,
I've
I
talked to
hate
people.
to see us
So,
have to wait.
This isn't something that should be coming from the zoning board.
Correct,
It's a planning board thing, right?
correct.
Or or the housing partnership, or the.
Well, I don't
And
know
I
who-
think
So,
I think they're gonna be bringing it forward.
And particularly where the zoning board, we're an adjudicating board.
Right.
For the most part, I've always stayed away from the bylaw, the writing of the bylaws, where we're the ones that interpret them.
Correct.
And enforce.
Oh, I agree.
it.
I
But I
wasn't
think-
suggesting that we do it. I
Okay.
was just bringing it up.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good
And
point.
I think if there's any way we could do that separate and apart from the partnership, to let it, because the more that it happens, then we're gonna get, and that's where the objection comes, when you're gonna put up a development and somebody, let's say, for example, let's use the example of Burns Ave. Now, that didn't fly as a development, so to speak. Now what will happen is, it will be 40B in total. And I think, and I may be wrong about this, that the intent of this, when it was passed by the state, that in fact, I think the intent was that people would be assimilated into the general population, so that if you were having a number of apartments or condominiums going in, you would assimilate. I don't think that it necessarily dictated, or if you will, wanted it to be that everything had to be 40B, all or nothing. So I really and truly, we've dragged out, and I know we're not responsible for this,
Right.
but it seems like this has come up again and again, and.
Right, the partnership is working on that, I know that. The problem is, and honestly, this is the first town I've worked in where the closing of the warrant is so far ahead of town meeting. That hurts, because now we're already into December. You're talking about warrant closing in a month for a town meeting in
May. Yeah.
Usually what happens is the warrant opens 60 days prior and closes 30 days prior, so.
Well,
it's-
they can leave an open spot, though.
Right,
Yeah.
we call it a placeholder.
Right.
They can leave a placeholder to be used later.
Yeah, we can let the people that are involved with that.
Yeah.
move
I
forward.
really would urge that they somehow,
Yeah, I haven't been asked to work on that, from what I understand the housing partnership is, so, if I'm asked to step in and help with that, I certainly will. So we'll see where that goes. I know they are working on that, and they are gonna be presenting, they've already submitted a draft housing production plan. They're gonna be coming before the planning board on January 3rd. And we'll see how the planning board, the reaction they get from the planning board when that comes forward.
Okay. Very
so
good.
they would be going before the planning board with this.
With the housing
Suggestion.
production plan, they're going before the selectmen in December 18th, and then they're going before the planning board to sign off on the housing production plan, and I believe part of that production plan would be to work on an inclusionary housing bylaw.
Because it would be the planning board
Right.
to initiate the
Initiate,
article.
okay.
Yeah,
You know.
and they'd have to hold a public hearing
Oh, yeah.
on
yeah.
it. Yep.
What, do we know whether the planning board has even entertained this idea?
I don't know, I
Anybody's
haven't-
brought it up?
I haven't talked to them about that, so,
I don't know.
Okay,
yeah.
We'll let
But it
them-
will be
Alright.
talked about here over the next month.
okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, I realize that we cannot initiate this.
But I know
Actually-
it may not, you may not view it as a controversial, but over the years, it can be somewhat controversial because of the fact that this opens up, obviously, 40Bs in all areas
So
of
they're
town.
non-40Bs, but they're.
Yeah,
For
there
the
is a
regular
40B
developments
component,
become
correct.
Right, that's what
Correct.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So that they
count
could
towards your
assimilate, as
Yeah.
opposed to saying, okay, now we're gonna
Affordable
have.
Exactly,
units.
yeah.
You're looking for affordable units.
units, yes,
Yes.
affordable units,
Okay.
okay. All right,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Jane. Okay, anything else? Very good. That concludes, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Jane,
Second.
second by Bob. Meeting is adjourned until we meet again in 2019. Thank you, everybody.
Everybody.